Captain Lee Hana stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the big front window. Her ship was not the biggest or the strongest, but it carried 3,000 humans to their new home among the stars. They had been traveling, for 2 years, looking for a planet where they could build a new life. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Most people were sleeping or resting in their rooms. Hana liked these peaceful moments. She could think clearly and plan for what came next. They were still 6 months away from their target planet, but everything was going well. Commander Park Ji-won walked up to her. He was the chief engineer and one of her best friends. His face looked worried, which was not normal for him. Ji-won was usually calm and happy even when things went wrong. "Captain," Ji-won said quietly, "we have a problem. A big ship just appeared on our sensors. It's huge, maybe 10 times bigger than us." Hana turned to look at the main screen. A massive, dark shape filled most of the display. The alien ship looked like a giant metal insect with long arms stretching out from its body. Strange lights blinked along its surface, and Hana could see smaller ships flying around it like tiny flies. "How did it get so close without us seeing it?" she asked. "I don't know," Ji-won replied. 1 second there was nothing, then suddenly it was there. Their technology must be very advanced. Dr. Yoon Nari hurried onto the bridge. She was their best scientist and knew more about aliens than anyone else on the ship. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking a little. "Captain, we're getting a message from them," Nari said. "They want to talk to you right now." Hana nodded and sat down in her captain's chair. "Put them on the main screen." The image of the alien ship disappeared, replaced by the face of something that looked like a giant lizard. Its skin was dark green with black spots and its eyes were bright yellow. Sharp teeth filled its mouth, and Hana could see that it was not happy. "I am War Leader Vextar of the Hegemony Coalition," the alien said in perfect human language. Its voice was deep and scary. "You are humans, yes? We have been watching your kind for some time." "I am Captain Lee Hana of the Soul's Pride," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "We are peaceful travelers looking for a new home." Vexatar made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not friendly. "Peaceful? We know about humans. You are dangerous and unpredictable. You fight too much and never follow the rules that keep the galaxy safe. We just want to find a planet where we can live in peace," Hana said. "That cannot be allowed," Vextar replied. "The Hegemony Coalition controls this part of space. We have decided that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to spread to more worlds. You will surrender your ship and all your people. We will take you to a prison planet where you will live under our control." Hana felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her face calm. Behind her, she heard Ji-won take a sharp breath. The bridge crew was listening to every word, and she knew they were scared. "And if we refuse?" Hana asked. Vextar's yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Then we will destroy your ship and everyone on it. We have 12 different alien species in our coalition. We have been the rulers of this galaxy for thousands of years. No one can stand against us." "I see," Hana said slowly. She looked at the alien's arrogant face and made her decision. "War Leader Vextar, I must refuse your demand. We will not surrender." The alien's mouth opened wide, showing all of his sharp teeth. "What are you going to do, primitive human? Your single small ship against our great armada? You have no weapons that can hurt us. Your technology is like children's toys compared to ours." Hana stood up from her chair. A small smile appeared on her face, and she felt strangely calm. This was the moment that would change everything, and she knew exactly what to say. "Care for gentle or brutal?" she asked quietly. Vextar's head tilted to one side like a confused dog. "What did you say?" "I asked if you care for gentle or brutal," Hana repeated, her smile growing bigger. "It's a simple question." "I do not understand your meaning," Vextar said. His voice was not as confident as before. Hana walked closer to the screen so the alien could see her face clearly. "It means we humans always give our enemies a choice. We can solve this problem the gentle way, which means everyone gets to live and maybe even becomes friends. Or we can solve it the brutal way, which means you get to learn why humans have survived every challenge we've ever faced." The war leader was quiet for several seconds. Hana could see him thinking, probably wondering if this was some kind of trick. Finally, he spoke again. You think you can threaten me, the mighty hegemony coalition? His voice was full of anger now. I choose brutal human. Show me what your weak species can do against the masters of the galaxy. Are you sure? Hana asked. Because once you choose brutal, there's no going back to gentle. I always like to give people a second chance to think about their decision. I am sure, Vexitar roared. Do your worst, primitive creature. Hana's smile became even bigger. Thank you for making your choice clear, war leader. We'll be in touch very soon. She made a signal to cut the communication. The alien's angry face disappeared from the screen, replaced by the view of his massive ship again. Jiwan stepped up beside her. Captain, what's the plan? First, we show them gentle, Hana said. Even though he chose brutal, I want to give them one more chance to see reason. Get me pilot Choi Daeho and prepare the ship for some very unusual flying. Yes, Captain, Jiwan said, but he looked confused. Hana looked out at the enemy ship and felt her smile grow even wider. War leader Vextar had no idea what he had just started. Humans had been underestimated before, and it never. Pilot Choi Daeho ran onto the bridge, still putting on his flight jacket. He was young and always excited about flying, but right now he looked nervous. The alien ship outside was so big it made their own ship look like a tiny bug. You called. For me, Captain? Daeho asked. Yes, Hana replied. I need you to do something that should be impossible. Can you phase our ship through their shields? Daeho's eyes went wide. Captain, that's not how physics works. Their shields will stop us, or destroy us. No ship can pass through another ship's shields. That's what they think too, Hana said with a smile. But humans don't always follow the rules that other species think are absolute. Dr. Nari, explain what we discovered about quantum mechanics. Dr. Yoon Nari stepped forward, holding a small computer tablet. We've been studying something interesting. When humans meditate or focus very deeply, our brain waves create tiny changes in quantum fields around us. Most species think this is impossible because their brains work differently. I still don't understand, Daeho said. The universe is not as solid as everyone believes, Nari continued. Everything is made of tiny particles that sometimes exist and sometimes don't. If we can predict when those particles will flicker out of existence, we can slip through the gaps. Commander Park Jiwon was working at his control station. I've been running calculations based on Dr. Nari's research. The alien shields have a pattern like a heartbeat. There are tiny moments when parts of the shield disappear for just a fraction of a second. But how do we predict exactly when that will happen? Daeho asked. That's where human intuition comes in, Hana explained. Other species use computers to calculate everything, but humans can feel things that computers cannot. You've always been good at sensing when to turn or dodge, even before your instruments tell you to. Daeho thought about this. It was true that he often knew when to change direction before he could see the danger coming. Other pilots had noticed this too, and said he was just lucky. But maybe it was something more. I'll try, he said finally. But if this doesn't work, we'll all be dead. I have faith in human ability, Hana said. Begin when ready. Daeho sat down at the pilot controls and closed his eyes. He took several deep breaths and tried to feel the space around their ship. It was hard to explain, but he could sense something like a rhythm coming from the alien vessel. I can feel it, he said quietly. Their shields pulse like a heartbeat. There are tiny gaps, but they move around randomly. Don't think about it, Dr. Nari advised. Just feel when the moment is right. The Soul's Pride began to move toward the massive alien ship. On the bridge, everyone was very quiet. They could see smaller alien fighters flying around the big ship, but none of them tried to stop the human vessel. The aliens probably thought it was impossible for the humans to do anything dangerous. Shields are getting stronger as we get closer, Jiwon reported. Their energy readings are enormous. I can feel the pattern changing, Daeho said. His hands moved over the controls without him thinking about it. The gaps are there, but they're moving faster now. Trust your instincts. Hana said softly. Suddenly, Deho's eyes opened wide. Now! He shouted. The soul's pride seemed to flicker like a light that was about to burn out. For just a moment, the ship became slightly transparent. The alien shields, which should have stopped them or destroyed them, did nothing as the human ship passed right through them. Impossible, came a voice from the communication system. It was War Leader Vextar, and he sounded shocked and angry. How did you do that? The soul's pride was now inside the alien ship's hangar bay, surrounded by smaller alien vessels. The aliens inside the hangar were running around in confusion. Some were pointing weapons at the human ship, but they seemed afraid to shoot while they were inside their own vessel. That was the gentle demonstration, Hana said calmly into the communication system. We could have appeared anywhere inside your ship. We could have materialized inside your bridge or your engine room or your weapons control center. But we chose the hangar bay because we don't want to hurt anyone. You used some kind of trick, Vextar accused. This is not possible with real science. It's perfectly real science, Dr. Nari said, taking over the communication. You just don't understand it because your species thinks the universe follows rigid rules. Humans learned long ago that reality is much more flexible than most people believe. Hana walked back to the main screen. War Leader Vextar, I'm going to show you something else. My ship's computer has been scanning your vessel since we arrived. We've found some problems with your design that you should know about. Problems? Our ships are built with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. That's exactly the problem, Hana replied. Your ships are so advanced that you've forgotten some basic principles. Dr. Nari, show him the structural analysis. The main screen changed to show detailed pictures of the alien ship's construction. Red marks appeared in dozens of places, highlighting weak points and design flaws. Your hull plating is too uniform, Dr. Nari explained. If someone hits you in the right places with the right frequency, your entire ship will vibrate apart. Your power systems are too centralized. One small disruption in the wrong place will cause a cascade failure that will shut down everything. Your computer networks are so complex that they can be confused by simple chaos patterns. You're lying, Vextar shouted, but his voice didn't sound as confident as before. We're not lying, Hana said. In fact, we're going to prove it, but instead of destroying your ship to show you these problems, we're going to give you the solutions. We're transmitting improved designs that will fix all of these issues. Why would you help us? We are enemies. Because that's what humans do, Hana explained. We solve problems, even when those problems belong to people who want to hurt us. We believe that making the galaxy safer for everyone makes it safer for us too. On the alien ship's bridge, War Leader Vexitar was staring at his screens in disbelief. His engineers were confirming that everything the humans said was true. The design improvements they offered would make his ship much stronger and safer. This makes no sense, he said to his crew. Why would they help their enemies? I don't know, War Leader, one of his officers replied. But their analysis is completely accurate. We have been blind to these problems for years. Back on the Soul's Pride, Hana was preparing to leave. War Leader Vextar, we're going to return to our original course now. You can choose to let us go peacefully or you can try to stop us. But I want you to think about something. We just showed you that we could have destroyed your ship easily, but instead we chose to help you make it better. That's the difference between gentle and brutal. Wait, Vextar said. How do we know this isn't some kind of trap? You don't, Hana replied. You'll have to trust us, just like we're trusting you not to shoot us while we leave your hangar bay. Sometimes trust is the only way forward. The Soul's Pride began to move toward the hangar bay exit. The alien fighters moved aside to let them pass. As they left the massive ship behind, Hana could see that some of the aliens were already beginning to work on the improvements her people had suggested. Captain, Jiwan said quietly, do you think they'll actually use our help to make their ships better? I hope so, Hana replied. But more importantly, they'll remember that we could have hurt them badly and chose not to. That memory might make them think twice before threatening other humans. Dr. Nari was looking at her sensor readings. Captain, I'm detecting communication signals between their ship and other vessels. Word about what we did is spreading quickly. Good, Hana said. Let them talk. Let them tell everyone in their coalition that humans are not what they expected. Sometimes the best weapon is confusion. As the Soul's Pride returned to its original course, Hana looked back at the alien ship one more time. War leader Vexitar had learned his first lesson about humans today, but she had a feeling this was only the beginning of a much larger conversation between humanity and the galaxy. The gentle demonstration. 3 weeks had passed since the encounter with war leader Vexitar, and the Soul's Pride continued toward its destination. But Captain Lee Hana knew their peaceful journey was about to end. Dr. Yoon Nari had been monitoring alien communication, signals, and the news was not good. "Captain," Nari said as she entered the bridge, "I've decoded more of their messages. The Hegemony Coalition is gathering a massive fleet. They're calling it the largest military force ever assembled in this part of the galaxy." "How many ships?" Hana asked. "Over 500 vessels from 12 different alien species. They're all heading toward human space," Nari replied, her voice worried. "War leader Vexitar convinced them that we're too dangerous to be allowed to spread to more worlds." Commander Park Ji-won looked up from his station. "Captain, we're getting an emergency message from Earth Command. Admiral Kim Min-ho wants to speak with you immediately." The main screen flickered and Admiral Kim Min-ho's face appeared. He was an older man with gray hair and serious eyes, but Hana had never seen him look this concerned before. "Captain Hana," the Admiral said, "I hope you're ready for some surprising news. We've been watching the alien response to your encounter, and it's time to reveal something we've kept secret for many years." "What kind of secret, Admiral?" Hana asked. "The kind that might save humanity," Min-ho replied. "Captain, the Soul's Pride is not the only human ship out here. We've been secretly colonizing worlds throughout this galaxy for the past 50 years. Worlds that other species considered worthless or too dangerous to settle." Hana felt her mouth fall open. "How many colonies?" 237, the Admiral said with a slight smile. "We chose planets that were too unstable, too chaotic, or too hostile for other species. Volcanic worlds, planets with unstable orbits, worlds locked between ice and fire. Places where only humans would be crazy enough to try to live." "But why keep it secret?" Dr. Nari asked. "Because we were preparing for exactly this situation," Admiral Min-ho explained. "We knew that someday other species might see us as a threat, so we made sure we would be ready." The Admiral's image changed to show a star map with hundreds of red dots scattered across the galaxy. Each dot represented a human colony, and Hana was amazed to see how far they had spread. "Every one of these worlds has been turned into a fortress," Min-ho continued. "But not the kind of fortress other species would expect. We use the natural chaos and instability of these planets as weapons." "How?" Hana asked. "On the volcanic worlds, we built geothermal energy systems that can be turned into massive plasma cannons. On the worlds with unstable orbits, we created kinetic bombardment systems using the gravitational chaos. On the tidally locked planets, we built bases in the eternal darkness that can launch surprise attacks." Ji-won was studying the star map carefully. "Admiral, these positions, they create a network that surrounds most of the hegemony territory." "Exactly," Min-ho said. "While they were busy controlling the good planets, we were claiming all the bad ones. And now those bad planets are going to show them why humans have always been good at surviving in impossible places." Suddenly, pilot Choi Daeho's voice came over the communication system from the fighter bay. "Captain, I'm reading multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace around us. Looks like the alien fleet found us." "How many?" Hana asked. "Too many to count, Captain. At least 100 ships, maybe more." Admiral Min-ho's face became serious again. "Captain, you're about to see the real human response to galactic bullies. Prepare to be amazed by what your species can do when we stop pretending to be primitive." The main screen switched to show the space around them. Alien ships were appearing everywhere, surrounding the Soul's Pride with overwhelming numbers. But as Hana watched, something else began to happen. Human ships started appearing too. They came from every direction, dropping out of hyperspace with perfect timing. But these were not normal human ships. They looked wild and dangerous, like They had been built by people who didn't care about following standard designs. "This is Commander Park Gina of the New Seoul Defense Force," came a voice over the communication system. "All alien vessels, you are surrounded. Surrender now or face the consequences." War Leader Vextar's voice answered, full of anger and disbelief. "Impossible. There are no human military forces in this region." "You're wrong," came another voice. This time it was a woman named Captain Yoon Ji-hyo. "There are human forces everywhere in this galaxy. You just never bothered to look in the places you thought were worthless." More human voices joined the conversation. Captain Lee Sun-ho from a volcanic world called New Busan. Commander Kim Soo-young from an ice planet called New Incheon. Pilot Park Min-jae from a desert world called New Daegu. Each voice represented a hidden human colony that had been preparing for this day. "You have been studying the wrong humans," Admiral Minho said to the alien fleet. "You looked at our peaceful colony ships and our exploration vessels and thought we were weak. But you never saw our real military because we built it in places you were afraid to go." The alien fleet began to move into attack formation, but the human ships moved faster. They didn't fly in the careful, organized patterns that other species used. Instead, they moved like a swarm of angry bees, chaotic and unpredictable. Pilot Choi Dae-ho launched his fighter and joined the battle. But he was not alone. Hundreds of human fighters poured out of the hidden ships, and they flew like no other species in the galaxy. "How are they moving like that?" came a confused alien voice over the communication channels. "Their ships are changing direction in ways that should be impossible. Human pilots don't rely on computer calculations like your species does," Captain Hana explained. "They use instinct and intuition. They feel when to turn, when to dodge, when to attack. Your targeting computers can't predict what they're going to do, because even they don't know until they do it." The battle was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Human ships appeared and disappeared, using the same phase technology that had allowed the Soul's Pride to pass through shields. Human fighters moved in patterns that made no sense but somehow worked perfectly. But the most surprising thing was what happened to the alien ships themselves. They began to malfunction in strange ways. "Our computers are acting strangely," reported one alien captain. "They keep trying to calculate the optimal response to human tactics, but the calculations never end. The humans are using chaos theory to confuse our artificial intelligence." Dr. Yoon Nari smiled as she listened to the alien reports. "We've been studying your technology for decades. We know that your computer systems try to find perfect solutions to every problem. So we developed tactics that don't have perfect solutions. Your computers will keep calculating forever, trying to find answers that don't exist." "This is not fair combat," War Leader Vextar shouted. "You're not following the accepted rules of space warfare." "Rules?" Admiral Minho laughed. "War Leader, humans wrote the book on irregular warfare. We've been fighting against impossible odds for our entire history. Did you really think we would start following someone else's rules now?" As the battle continued, something else began to happen. Ships from other species started appearing, but they were not fighting alongside the Hegemony Coalition. Instead, they were joining the humans. "This is Ambassador Kreltoth of the Andromedans," came a new voice. "We have been waiting for someone strong enough to stand against the hegemony. We offer our alliance to humanity." "The Centauri Republic also stands with the humans," said another voice. "We are tired of hegemony oppression." One by one, species that had been forced to join the Hegemony Coalition began to switch sides. They had been waiting for someone to prove that the coalition could be defeated, and the humans had just provided that proof. War Leader Vextar found himself commanding a shrinking fleet as his allies abandoned him. "This cannot be happening. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. Your time is over," Captain Hana said simply. "You had your chance to choose gentle. Now you're learning what brutal looks like when humans are really trying." The alien fleet began to retreat, but the human ships did not pursue them. Instead, they formed a protective formation around the Soul's Pride and the other peaceful vessels. "This is only the beginning," Admiral Minho announced to the fleeing aliens. Every species in this galaxy now knows that the hegemony can be defeated. How long do you think your empire will last when everyone knows you're not invincible? As the battle ended, Hana realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding among the stars. They had revealed themselves as a major power, and they had done it by embracing the very qualities that other species saw as weaknesses. "6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy was in chaos. Not the bad kind of chaos that meant destruction and death, but the good kind that meant change and freedom. The Hegemony Coalition was falling apart as more and more species declared their independence. Captain Lee Hana stood in the command center of New Earth Station, a massive space station that had been built in secret near the center of human territory. Admiral Kim Min-ho had asked her to help coordinate the human response to the galactic rebellion that they had started. "Captain," Dr. Yoon Nari said, as she approached with a data tablet, "we're getting reports from all over the galaxy. 17 more species have declared independence from the hegemony this week alone, but war leader Vextar is not giving up easily." "What's he doing now?" Hana asked. "He's using fear tactics," Nari replied. "His remaining forces are attacking civilian targets, trying to show other species what happens to those who rebel against the hegemony. 3 colonies were destroyed just yesterday." Hana felt anger growing in her chest. This was exactly what she had hoped to avoid. "Where is he now?" "Intelligence reports say he's gathering his remaining loyal forces at the hegemony capital world. Best estimates put his fleet at about 200 ships." Commander Park Ji-won walked up to join the conversation. "Captain, Admiral Min-ho wants to see you in the strategy room. He says it's time for the final phase." The strategy room was filled with human military leaders and representatives from the allied species. The main display showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with colored dots representing different factions. Red dots showed hegemony forces, blue dots showed human colonies, and green dots showed newly independent species. "The situation is clear," Admiral Min-ho said to the assembled group. "War leader Vextar has about 40% of his original forces left, but they're becoming more desperate and more brutal. We need to end this before more innocent people die." "What are you proposing?" asked Ambassador Kreltoth, who had become the unofficial leader of the allied species. "A direct assault on the hegemony capital," Min-ho replied. "We have the ships and the allies to do it. But more importantly, we have something that Vextar doesn't understand." "What's that?" Hana asked. "We understand his psychology," Dr. Nari explained, stepping forward with her research. "I've been studying hegemony culture for months. Vextar's species, the Krathari, are warrior caste aliens who believe that strength comes from domination. But they have a weakness." "Go on," Min-ho said. "They cannot comprehend the idea of voluntary cooperation," Nari continued. "In their minds, all relationships are based on power. Someone must be the ruler, and everyone else must be ruled. The idea that different species might work together as equals is literally impossible for them to understand." "So how do we use that against them?" asked Captain Park Gina, who had led the defense fleet during the first battle. "We show them something that breaks their understanding of reality," Hana said, beginning to see the plan. "We show them a kind of strength they've never seen before." "Exactly," Admiral Min-ho said with a smile. "We're going to do something that no military force in galactic history has ever done. We're going to offer our enemies the chance to surrender and join us as equals." The room fell silent. Even the human officers looked shocked by this idea. "Admiral," Commander Ji-won said carefully, "these are the same people who have been enslaving and oppressing other species for thousands of years. Are you sure we want them as allies?" "I'm not saying we trust them immediately," Min-ho replied, "but we're going to give them the choice. Some of them might surprise us. And for those who don't take the offer, well, they'll learn what happens when humans really get serious about warfare." Over the next 2 weeks, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled near the hegemony capital. Human ships formed the core of the force, but they were joined by vessels from dozens of liberated species. The fleet included not just military ships, but also hospital ships, supply vessels, and even some civilian transports. "Why are we bringing civilian ships to a battle?" asked pilot Choi Daeho during the final briefing. "Because this isn't just a battle," Hana explained. "This is a demonstration of what the galaxy could be like if we all worked together, instead of fighting each other." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace around the hegemony capital world, and the sight that greeted them was impressive. War Leader. Vextar had turned the entire planet into a fortress. Massive defense platforms surrounded the world, and his remaining ships formed a solid wall of firepower. "This is War Leader Vextar to the rebel fleet," came the familiar angry voice. "You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and I might allow some of you to live as slaves." "This is Admiral Kim Minho to War Leader Vextar," came the reply. "We offer you one final choice. Surrender peacefully and join the new Galactic Confederation as an equal partner, or face the full power of united free peoples." "Join you as equals?" Vextar's laughter was harsh and bitter. "You think I would bow down to inferior species? The Krathari are the rightful rulers of this galaxy. I was hoping you might say that," Admiral Minho said quietly. Then his voice became louder and more formal. "All ships execute Plan Omega. What happened next would be talked about in history books for thousands of years. The human fleet did not attack the hegemony defenses. Instead, they did something that no one expected. They began to change the very nature of the battlefield itself. Using the same quantum phase technology that had allowed ships to pass through shields, human engineers began to alter the fabric of space around the capital world. Reality itself started to become flexible and strange. "What are you doing?" Vextar shouted as his sensors began to show impossible readings. "We're showing you what humans learned long ago," Dr. Nari explained over the communication channel. "The universe is not a fixed thing that follows rigid rules. It's alive and flexible and full of possibilities. And humans have always been good at seeing possibilities that others miss." The hegemony defense platforms began to malfunction as space itself around them became unstable. Their weapons fired, but the energy beams curved and twisted in directions that should not exist. Some shots passed right through human ships without causing damage. Other shots struck their own forces by accident. "This is impossible!" Vextar screamed. "Physics doesn't work this way." "Your physics doesn't work this way," Admiral Minho corrected. "But human physics has always been more creative." Then the real demonstration began. Instead of destroying the hegemony fleet, the human ships began to phase them into a parallel dimension. One by one, enemy vessels simply faded away, becoming transparent and then invisible. "Where are our ships going?" demanded a hegemony captain. "They're being moved to a place where they can't hurt anyone," Captain Hana explained. "It's like a prison, but one made of space and time instead of metal bars. Your crews are alive and unharmed, but they're trapped in a dimension where they can't affect the real world." "You cannot do this to us," Vextar raged. "We are warriors. If you will not give us honorable death in battle, then you are weak." "We're giving you something better than death," Hana replied. "We're giving you time to think. Time to consider whether there might be a better way to live than constantly fighting and conquering others. And if we refuse to change? Then you'll stay in that dimension forever," Admiral Minho said simply. "But if you decide that you want to try cooperation instead of domination, the prison will release you automatically. The choice is entirely yours." As the last of the hegemony fleet disappeared into the parallel dimension, the defense platforms around the capital world began to shut down. The planet's population, freed from their military leaders, began to send messages of surrender. "This is Governor Yelkara of the capital world," came a new voice. "The civilian government wishes to negotiate terms of surrender." "There are no terms," Admiral Minho replied. "You're free to govern yourselves however you choose, as long as you don't try to conquer or oppress other species. If you need help rebuilding or learning how to work with other species peacefully, we'll provide assistance. If you want to be left alone, that's fine too. You're not going to punish us for what the military did?" What would be the point? Doctor, Nari asked. Punishment doesn't create peace. Only understanding and cooperation can do that. As news of the hegemony's defeat spread across the galaxy, something amazing began to happen. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years began to talk to each other. Trade routes opened between worlds that had never communicated before. Scientists from different species began to share their knowledge. But the most amazing thing was what happened to war leader Vextar. 3 days after being imprisoned in the parallel dimension, he sent a message through the quantum barrier. I wish to speak with Captain Lee Hanna, the message said. I believe I may have been wrong about some things. Hanna smiled as she read the message. Even brutal could sometimes lead to understanding if you gave people enough time to think about their choices. The galaxy. 1 year later, Captain Lee Hanna stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new galactic headquarters that had been built where the hegemony capital used to be. Through the large windows, she could see ships from dozens of different species arriving and departing peacefully. It was a sight she had never expected to see in her lifetime. Captain, Dr. Yoon Nari said as she approached, War Leader Vextar is here for his final meeting. Are you ready? Hanna nodded. Over the past year, she had spoken with Vextar many times through the quantum barrier that kept him in the parallel dimension. Each conversation had been different from the last, as the former military leader slowly began to understand concepts that his species had never experienced before. Send him to Conference Room 7, Hanna said. And Nari, make sure Admiral Minho and Ambassador Kreltoth are there too. This decision affects everyone. Conference Room 7 was designed to accommodate many different species. The chairs could adjust for different body types. The air was filtered to be breathable by most known aliens, and the lighting could be modified for different visual systems. War Leader Vextar appeared in the center of the room as a holographic projection. He looked the same as always, with his green and black scaled skin and bright yellow eyes, but something about his expression was different. The anger and arrogance were gone, replaced by something that might have been wisdom. Captain Hanna, Vextar said, his voice much calmer than it had been a year ago. I have asked for this meeting because I believe I am ready to make my choice. I'm listening, Hanna replied. For the past year I have been forced to think about many things that I had never considered before, Vextar continued. In my dimension prison I cannot fight. I cannot conquer. I cannot dominate. All I can do is think. Admiral Kim Minho leaned forward in his chair. And what have you concluded? That I was wrong about almost everything, Vextar said simply. I spent my entire life believing that strength came from making others weak. That power meant controlling others. That the only way to be safe was to make everyone else afraid of you. And now? Dr. Nari asked. Now I have watched this galaxy change in ways I thought were impossible, Vextar replied. I have seen species that were enemies for thousands of years become friends and trading partners. I have seen scientific discoveries that came from cooperation between different kinds of minds. I have seen a kind of strength that I never knew existed. Ambassador Kreltoth, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What kind of strength is that? The strength that comes from choosing to help others even when you don't have to, Vextar said. The strength that comes from building something together, instead of tearing things apart. The strength that comes from giving people choices instead of taking them away. Hanna felt a small smile appear on her face. So what is your choice, War Leader? I choose to try to learn this new way of living, Vextar said. I want to be released from the dimension prison so that I can help build this galactic confederation that you have created. But I understand if you don't trust me yet. Trust has to be earned, Admiral Minho said. What are you willing to do to earn it? Anything you ask, Vextar replied immediately. I know that my actions caused great pain and suffering throughout the galaxy. I want to spend whatever time I have left trying to repair that damage. Hanna looked around the room at the other leaders. She could see that they were all thinking carefully about this decision. Finally, she spoke. War Leader Vextar, we will agree to release you from the Dimension Prison on several conditions. First, you will give up all military rank and authority. Second, you will work with our rehabilitation specialists to help other former hegemony soldiers learn to live peacefully. Third, you will travel to the worlds that were damaged by hegemony forces and help with reconstruction efforts. I accept all of these conditions, Vextar said without hesitation. There's one more thing, Dr. Nari added. You will work directly with me to help us understand former hegemony species better. Your knowledge of their cultures and psychology will help us prevent future conflicts. I would be honored to help with that work, Vextar replied. Ambassador Kreltoth stood up. Then it is decided. War Leader Vextar will be released and given the chance to prove that he has truly changed, but he will be watched carefully and, if he betrays this trust, the punishment will be severe. The holographic projection faded as Vextar was returned to normal space for the first time in a year. Within minutes, a transport ship arrived at Unity Station carrying the former war leader, who was now just Vextar, a person trying to find a new way to live. When Vextar walked into the conference room in person, Hana was struck by how different he seemed. He was smaller than she remembered, and his movements were careful and respectful rather than aggressive and dominating. Thank you, Vextar said simply. I know that forgiveness is not something I deserve, but I am grateful for the chance to try to earn it. Forgiveness isn't something you earn, Hana replied. It's something you receive as a gift, and then you spend your life trying to be worthy of it. Over the next 6 months, Vextar proved that his change was real. He worked tirelessly with former hegemony soldiers, helping them understand how to live without constant conflict. He traveled to damaged worlds and personally helped rebuild communities that his forces had destroyed. He shared everything he knew about hegemony military tactics and technology, helping the new Galactic Confederation defend against any remaining threats. But perhaps most importantly, he became a symbol of the possibility of change. If someone like Vextar could learn to choose cooperation over domination, then anyone could change. The galaxy continued to transform. The old hegemony worlds became thriving centers of trade and culture. Species that had been enslaved for generations learned to govern themselves again. New technologies emerged from the combination of different scientific traditions, and at the center of it all was the simple human principle that had started everything. Always give people a choice. Captain Hana, now promoted to Admiral, often thought about that first encounter with Vextar when he had demanded to know what humans could do against the mighty hegemony. The answer had been simpler than anyone expected. Humans could offer choices. They could show other species that there was a difference between strength and brutality, between power and oppression, between winning and destroying your enemies. They could prove that the greatest victories came not from defeating others, but from helping others become their best selves. On the 5th anniversary of the end of the Hegemony War, Admiral Hana stood once again on the observation deck of Unity Station. Beside her stood Vextar, now serving as the Director of Reconciliation for the Galactic Confederation. Do you ever regret your choice? Hana asked him. Which choice? Vextar replied. The choice to fight you in the first place, or the choice to change afterwards? Either one. Vextar was quiet for a long moment, watching the peaceful traffic of ships outside the station. I regret the pain I caused when I chose to fight, but I don't regret that the fight happened, because it led to this. He gestured toward the bustling space around them. Sometimes the galaxy needs to be shaken up before it can become something better. And you're happy with the new galaxy we've built? Happy? Vextar considered the word carefully. I'm not sure my species has a word for what I feel, but I know that this is better than what we had before. This is what the galaxy was always supposed to be. Hana smiled as she watched a group of young aliens from different species playing together in the station's recreation area. They were laughing and having fun, completely unaware that their grandparents might have been enemies just a few years ago. You know what the best part is? Hana said. What's that? We're still giving people choices. Every day, every person in this galaxy gets to choose between gentle and brutal, between cooperation and domination, between building something beautiful and tearing it down, and most of them are choosing to build. Most of them, Vextar agreed. But not all. There are still some who choose the old ways. That's okay, Hana replied. As long as people have the freedom to choose, some will make bad choices. But we've proven that good choices are possible, and that's what matters. As the two former enemies stood together watching the peaceful galaxy they had helped create, a new ship arrived at the station. It was a human exploration vessel, just back from the far edge of the galaxy, where new species were still being discovered. The cycle would continue. Humans would meet new aliens, some friendly and some hostile. There would be misunderstandings and conflicts and difficult decisions. But now the galaxy knew that there was another way to handle these challenges. There would always be choices to make. And as long as humans were involved, those choices would always include the options of gentle and brutal, of peace and war, of destruction and cooperation. The galaxy had learned that the most powerful force in the universe was not any weapon or technology or military strategy. It was the simple act of giving someone a choice,